Hello, friends. I'm Amy Calendrino coming back to you with another episode of the Performance Mindset Podcast. I have the great fortune of having Ellen Silverman joining me today. She is a woman in commercial real estate and previously was in Wall Street as an analyst for many years. And so I find it super cool that she made this transition and this jump from like a normal job into now being an entrepreneur with a leading brand, Compass. And also, when she connected me on Instagram and I saw her glasses, I'm like, oh, I like her. So, anyways, can't wait to talk a little bit more about her journey and transitioning into real estate. Also, always love to hear a bit about New York as it's its own animal. And so here we go.
Great. Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah. How are things going in New York?
They've been really busy since election day. I don't know. I think that a lot of buyers have just accepted the fact that interest rates are going to remain where they are, and they're finally coming back to life. We also have an inventory shortage in New York City, so it's to sellers' advantage to be a seller right now. I don't see prices coming down that significantly overall in New York. I mean, there are certain parts of Manhattan that have had price decreases, but overall, it's been a very active market since around November. And I've been working pretty much 6 days, 7 days a week. I work through the holidays. I've been showing apartments. I've closed 3 deals already, and that's kind of unusual for the first couple of months of the year.
That is unusual.
Yeah, it's sort of weird. And meanwhile, the stock market's kind of crashing in the last few days
Yeah.
because of all the tariff stuff going on. But I don't know. I think New York City real estate is kind of holding its own despite all the craziness in the world right now.
It's interesting. I hadn't had a closing from October 3rd, significant. I had a couple things here and there, but until like February, it was like all of a sudden, end of January, February, someone like poured gasoline on everything. And then all the leases that hadn't been signed got signed and everything moved forward. I wish people would have made some decisions as soon as election day. That would have been like awesome. But my November, December, January were active, but not like not nothing closing. It was like getting right to it, and then I think everybody waited to inauguration day, and then phew, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think during the holidays, I had a lot of people out of New York come to visit New York. And during their couple of weeks here during Christmas, they wanted to look at apartments. So that happened. I had people from Las Vegas, from Florida, from Oklahoma, like all over the place. So that was great. I mean, who knows? I might have a slow summer, you know. I mean, it's just goes up and down. But right now, it's okay to be busy. It's fine.
I think it's really cool. I have some friends that are here in Orlando that have an apartment in New York as well. I think that's kind of cool. It's kind of fun. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about you. You were born and raised in Manhattan. I don't think I've met many other people that can say that. And then tell us a little bit about your history and what your career was before this and all of that.
Yeah, I know. Us real native New Yorkers are a dying breed, unfortunately. A lot of New Yorkers have left. But I am the fourth generation New Yorker. My great grandmother came here in 1904 from Europe and took the boat with everybody else and settled in Manhattan. And my grandmother was born here, my mother was born here, and I was born here. And so, I think everybody, they are who they are from their upbringing, and I'm just very used to being a city person, living in small spaces, living in apartments. So it's really not such a big deal because it's what I'm used to. Everyone's just used to what they're used to from their childhood, I think. So, and I think the craziness of New York is something that I'm also used to, and navigating busy people and emotional people and crazy people and fast pace is just something that I'm very used to. I took the subway to grammar school, when I was in third grade.
Wow.
So I'm just used to subways and public transportation and dealing with crowds. So yeah, it's just who I am. I think it would be very odd for me to be in the suburbs and take a car, drive somewhere. That would be really bizarre.
Yeah, I was like, what about when you go on vacation? What do you do? What's your type of where do you like to go?
Yeah, well, a lot of summer vacations were at the beach in Long Island.
Hmm.
So I either had friends who had cars, or certain parts of Long Island you don't need a car. You can just walk to stores and to the beach and to your house. Um, I do a lot of cruises now with my boyfriend, so that you don't really need a car for because you're on a cruise ship and then you get off the ship and you walk around the port or you have a tour or so everything's kind of prearranged for you, so you don't need to drive. And yeah, vacations were just handled, with other people handling the driving or the
Yeah,
train. Or I do a lot of trains. I have, if I have friends all over the country, well, I have, like, not all over, but, Washington or Boston, I'll just hop on the Amtrak.
yeah.
Amtrak is great. Or Florida, I just hop on a plane and go to Florida, and then they pick me up in their car. So, yeah, I have everyone else doing the driving.
You're like, nope, I'm good without that.
Yeah, yeah. So I grew up in New York City, and I was always very good in math, always as a young kid, and then high school, and I don't know why. Well, I kind of know why. I really had good math teachers. I think a lot of the things we like in life are due to having really good teachers.
Yeah.
And my math teachers were always fun and interesting, and they made the subject fun. So I kind of gravitated towards math. And I went to Carnegie Mellon in Pittsburgh, which is a very strong school in math and science, as well as fine arts. But I went there for math and business. And then upon graduating, I worked in finance. Well, I got an MBA and then I worked in finance. So most of my career was in banking and finance, where I got to use a lot of my math and analytical skills. And I did that career through my 50s. And I think after the banking crisis in 2008, my work got more and more uninteresting. It was a lot of regulatory work, and
Oh,
our work
yeah.
was we were
It's like
watched,
Dodd-Frank and all of that stuff.
all that stuff.
Ugh.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I worked for several banks, and regulators were at our desks, and the SEC, and we had to answer to audits all the time, and I really wasn't enjoying it. In 2016, I was working for a very well-known international bank that is no more, Credit Suisse. And at the time, they had a new CEO come in, and he was cleaning house, and I lost my job, and I was actually very happy to get laid off. And I always wanted to work for myself, but I never had the guts to leave a full-time salaried position. But it got to the point where I really felt like it was either now or never. I always loved real estate, and I really understood New York City, and I was good in finance. So I thought real estate would be a really good career for me. So I got my license in 2016, and I was with a few other companies before I joined Compass. I've been with Compass 5 years. I love Compass, going to stay. And, And so that's sort of my career in 5 sentences or less. And you know, but I wasn't prepared to be an entrepreneur. I had an employee mindset for a very long time. I still do to some extent because I don't like working weekends. But you have to in real estate. You have to. So I had a rude awakening.
Yeah. Well, I think for me, even though I do commercial, like I had a buyer that owns a business, or doctors or surgeons or lawyers, they don't have time during the week. And so often I'm showing my listings on the weekends. So I've just had to find ways to carve out personal time during the week. Because otherwise, if you are working 8 hours a day, every single day during the week, or 10 hours, then you're working weekends, it can really lead to burnout. So even me personally, I've had to find a way that works for me. Like Tuesdays are always like a half day for me. Like after two, I pick up my kids, I take them to gymnastics, we chill, we go to Chick-fil-A, we go to
Yeah.
church, or we go to Bible study, and like I don't, I just goof off like the rest of the Tuesday. But
Yeah, yeah.
it's like little, but my Mondays are super, super intense because I have tons of meetings. I'm going over all my deals for the week. And so you have to find the cadence that works for you so that you stay strong and of good use to your clients.
No, no, absolutely. And I do take time off and I do take half days and I try to take one day of the weekend off. Yeah, and it is flexible. And that's what I do love about it, that I can I am the CEO of my time, of my life, of my business. It's all up to me. And it's great, in that regard.
Yeah.
But I'd
Yeah.
say 75% of my time is on lead generation, marketing myself and getting leads and following up and figuring out new ways of branding myself and sending out emails and doing social media. And I've just accepted it that is the job. It's not so much doing the deals, but it's lead generation. And
Mhm.
nobody really mentioned that when I got my license. They didn't mention it once.
Well, and I think it will eventually, you continue to build a brand and continue to build that presence. And then you start to have clients where they're like, oh, yeah, my son or daughter wants to get an apartment here or this. But it takes, like, they always say, like, you really live for years 6 through 10, depending on. And now you've been 5 years at Compass. It's just around the corner.
Yeah, I feel that. I am getting more referrals. It is getting easier. I don't have to be chasing people and following up, 8 times or whatever it is. Yeah, it is starting to get easier. I still get fearful, like in this new on our with our politics and the tariffs. I mean, there's so much drama that you hear on the news, or just go on Facebook, or you go on wherever, and people are so afraid that we're going to get, what if we do have the Great Depression, and what if this and what if that? So you kind of, I try to filter out a lot of the news headlines and stay focused as much as I can.
Well, yeah. I mean, otherwise, if you get sucked in it, it just kind of builds upon itself and you fall deeper and deeper into like a victim kind of mindset. I had my friend from Canada, one of my friends from Canada. I have a lot of Canadian friends, but we actually went into tariffs and we're just like, at the end of the day, this is a math equation. America feels like they need more tariffs, and then we got to figure out how to balance this out. And, it could be just a negotiation play to then get Canada to kind of come to the table on something else, but it will all work out. This is not the first time that countries have had to come and try to work out deals with each other. So I think just the media hypes it up quite a bit to try to
Yeah,
elicit that response.
there's a lot of fear. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I agree. And I just try to adhere to what's in my calendar, what's on my to-do list. I try to get as much done as I can, and if I don't, it it goes to the next day, and the next day, and the next day, and eventually everything gets done. So, but it's been a little bit of a rude awakening. having to generate business.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm the engine here. It's no longer going to a bank and having everything being taken care of.
yeah, yeah.
And all you had to do was just go to your desk on time, meet your deadlines, and go home. And hopefully you
That's
don't get fired.
well, that's why I call it banker hours, because you just go in, clock out, and whatever happens after hours doesn't matter. Half the time, banks and those kinds of companies lock you down from even checking your emails after hours because they don't want to end up with a wage and hour claim. But it is a different, interesting shift as you kind of navigated that and continued to kind of build upon that. What type of lead generation sources are like? What's the oddest source of business that you've had for getting like a deal or getting a client? I don't want to call it a deal, but like a client.
Well, I do buy leads on Street Easy. Street Easy is owned by Zillow, and Street Easy is sort of the MLS for New York City.
Okay.
So I do buy a zip code, and I get leads that way. I also have a newsletter. I have social media. I get leads from Compass. I cultivate buyers from my open houses. What else do I do? And I've been doing more podcasting and videos, trying to do more videos on social media. So it is a variety of sources. Some work better than others. And every year I try to change it up a little bit and see, try to do something new. It does cost money. You have to spend money to make money in real
Yeah.
estate. Unfortunately, that was another thing nobody told us in real estate school. How much, there's a lot of money that goes out. In addition to the split that you pay your agency and the resource fee that I pay Compass, there are a great deal of other fees. But if you don't pay for marketing, you're just not going to be known, and you have to just do things to get yourself out there. So I just do a little of everything.
Yeah. No, it does take a lot of like effort and work, but I feel like the more that you do it, the more comfortable you're doing it, and then you become more proficient, doing it with social media and change until they change the algorithm again.
Right, right, right. No, I mean, and another thing they don't tell you is that you do get better at what you do. The more you do it, the better you get.
Yeah.
Because you always hear the horror stories. Well, the first 2 years of real estate, everybody drops out. You always hear the horror stories, but the truth is, if you keep at it and you treat your real estate business like a job, you do get better and better. You do.
Well, you do. Yeah. And I think that my ability and my bandwidth is much greater than it used to be. And I can take on way more clients at one time than I could before, just because it's just like working out or a sport or a muscle. The more you do it, the more proficient you get. And yeah, it becomes better. But I mean, you have such a cool background. It was interesting to see a lot of your client reviews. A lot of them really focused on the fact that you were much more of like an advisor and like a consultant than necessarily like a door opener. You're very much more analytical, which I think lends itself to the right kind of clientele in residential.
Yes, yes. Well, yeah, it's more than just doing the task of showing an apartment. I think you really have to know the market or the neighborhood you're showing in, what the comps are, what's selling, what isn't selling, what's the right price, knowing the square footage, the differences between condos and co-ops, just doing your homework. And that is more of a consultant role, is knowing the market. Absolutely. And Compass is very big on that.
What is the difference between a co-op and a condo or apartment? Because I live in Orlando.
Yeah, this is a New York City phenomenon. We we are about a 20% market in co-ops and a 10% market of condominiums and 70% rentals. We are a rental city and everyone seems to forget that. But in any case, A condominium is like buying a house. You're buying a real property.
Mm-hmm.
You own it. A co-op, you're buying shares in a corporation.
Oh,
So a co-op is treated like a company, and you have to be approved by a co-op board, and you have to submit a co-op package of your financials, and you have to show that you're really financially solvent and capable of buying the co-op, qualifying for a mortgage, justifying where your funds are coming from, showing that you have the income to meet the monthly maintenance expenses. Because if you don't meet the monthly maintenance, or HOA as you would call it, other people in that building will be in default, will have to cover for you.
right.
So it's a co-op is kind of an organization that is really scrutinizing every single member that is owning in that building. So the good thing about it is you know who your neighbors are, and you know that they're financially solvent, and you know that they're there to stay and is stable. And it's good if you have a family, for instance, and you're in a neighborhood because of the good schools for your kids, for instance. However, if you want to rent the apartment, it has to be approved by the board, and how much you charge for the rent has to be approved by the co-op board. And you can only rent for a certain length of time. Condominium, you're free to do whatever you want. You can rent it immediately as soon as you own it, just like a house. You can rent it immediately, you can charge whatever you like, there are no approvals, you are free. And with a condo, you're paying for, they're more money, condominiums are more money because you're paying for your freedom. I always say you're paying for your freedom. And to me, that's very valuable. I don't like having a co-op board dictating, what I can do and what I can't do.
There aren't as much like condo association boards, or not to the same extent.
Of course, there are condo boards. I live in a condo. There is a board, and they do look after the finances, and they do approve who's coming and going. But it's with a great deal less scrutiny. A condo, they just want to make sure you can buy the apartment. They don't care where the cash is from, as long as you have the funds, as long as if you need a mortgage, as long as you got the mortgage, it doesn't matter.
Now, with a co-op, I'm curious, do they do ongoing review of financials of the people that live within the co-op, or just really at the beginning?
No, it's just in the beginning. So that's another good thing. All you have to do is get in there, and then the rest, you could get in there and lose your job, but no one in the co-op really has to know.
Right.
I mean, as long as you can still pay the maintenance. So it's a matter of just getting in, and then after that, nobody has to know. But co-ops, they're nosy. They're like little small towns. And I don't like that. As a New Yorker, I want to be free. I want autonomy. I want to come and go. I don't want people knowing my business. So I always tell my clients, try to get into a condo. It's so much easier. It's an easier transaction.
It's so interesting that you say this because, I've watched Ryan Serhant on TV and all these different folks, and it would be my impression in Orlando that, oh my God, there's all these condos for sale, but you're telling me that's only 10% of the market. So it's kind of crazy. I thought there were all these apartments for sale, but the vast majority are rentals.
Yeah, well, what you see on these shows are a lot of the top agents that get new developments from developers here in New York City, and all new developments are condominiums. So I think that's why everyone has the impression that everything is a condo. And especially someone like Ryan Serhant, who, is managing tons of condominium developments all over New York City. So you get that impression it's condo, but it isn't. There's co-ops were developed in the 1970s. A lot of the pre-war buildings were turned into I meant co-ops were developed in the 1970s,
Yeah,
and a lot
yeah.
of the pre-war buildings are co-ops. A lot of the buildings you see on Fifth Avenue, Madison, Lexington, Central Park West, the very kind of more upscale neighborhoods in New York City, are all co-ops. So, yeah.
That's really
But
interesting.
I would never listen. If I have a buyer who wants to be in a co-op, I'm not going to say no. Of course, I'm going to help that buyer get into a co-op. But it's going to be a lot of work.
Right, right. No, I understand. No, I have the same thing happen to me in commercial where there's certain landlords that I know are rather difficult and it's just much more uphill battle. But at the end of the day, if that's the location that makes the most sense for the person and they're going to thrive the most, then that's where they need to
You
go.
have to do it. Yeah, unfortunately, you have to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. But, the other thing about co-ops is that they can reject a candidate for any reason and not disclose it. So there's been a lot of discrimination. There's been on all fronts. I mean, I had a co-op buyer, and she was a multimillionaire, and her husband, they lived in Vermont. She wanted to buy a primary residence in New York City, and the husband was going to stay in Vermont, and the co-op board didn't like that, and she got rejected. And she could have sued. It's discrimination. How someone wants to live their life and their marriage is their business.
Right, right.
And it was just very upsetting. And they were happily married for 40 years.
Right,
And maybe their marriage was going to last because she was moving to another geographic.
And it's completely opposite Vermont versus New York. I'm from Vermont originally. So, yeah, so I totally get it.
After 40 years of marriage, maybe you need
You need some New York in your life.
and so it just, things like that just were infuriating.
Yeah.
So anyway, sorry, I don't mean to go off on the
No, it's really interesting to learn all the ins and outs and like what you have to go through and overcome, and then also help your clients to stay. Did she end up finding a place to go eventually?
She was so disgusted by this that she left. She said, forget it, I'm not buying a co-op ever again. I said, I don't want to buy a condo. I don't want to buy a co-op. I want nothing more to do with you, Ellen. Sayonara.
Oh no, it had nothing to do with you.
And I never heard from her again. And it happens. Yeah. I mean, as the real estate agent, we are the front and center stage of these deals, and you get blamed for a lot of stuff.
Yeah, that happens. Well, yeah, it does. So what was one of the hardest things that you found transitioning over from Wall Street into real estate? What was something that was the most surprising to you?
Yeah, well, I was sort of very analytical and not very strong in people skills. Not that I'm a terrible person or anything like that, but I mean, I'm a nice person, but I think just the skills of playing therapist, listening, and having empathy, and really putting yourself in your client's shoes.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a skill I'm continuing to learn. Mm-hmm. To really, don't treat people like a transaction. These are human beings. And learning those soft people skills was something I really had to learn and had to understand. Yeah.
If you have an high IQ, they often say that the EQ is not as strong. And I've found too that I've had to, in different states of my life, I've had to like kind of wait, someone just told me something that's kind of a big deal to them, instead of saying, okay, move on. Like, okay, tell me a little bit more about that. Like what, how did you feel about that? Or whatever it is. And like understanding more instead of going and moving on. And so, I can relate to that, and I think it's like a muscle too. Though the more you get, the podcast has been tremendous in me stopping, listening, picking up on things that I wouldn't have necessarily done so easily before.
Yeah, yeah, and me too. Being on a podcast is a new experience for me. So, um, yeah, that too. I'm sort of an introvert, so this has all been, having to talk about my background and the issues and the challenges that I face, and being, articulate about it, is also a skill that I'm learning. Yeah, we're all learning. Look, we're all evolving. We're all growing. As long as you just keep trying, then you're good.
That's exactly it. That's the point of this whole podcast. It's like,
Exactly.
just
Don't
having
give
that growth
up.
mindset is like, you can't, like, I think you you never know what you're capable of until you continue to give yourself like a chance at doing it. Like, yeah, you just don't know.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
What do you have any big goals for this year for yourself that you've set as far as new clients or transactions or anything like that?
Yeah, well, I am going to be doing more videos, and that scares me. But I'm just going to have to bite the bullet. I did hire someone to help me with that, and I did buy a new suit. So that's I'm getting ready, and I hope to just attract more investors, more people that are new to New York that really want education and knowledge about New York City. Those are really great clients for me because they appreciate my knowledge and
Mhm.
expertise. I just hope to keep doing deals all year. That would be awesome. If I could just, generate one deal a month, that would be amazing. Or even one deal every other month, that would be
Yeah.
amazing. And not having to dip into my savings account would be amazing, because I certainly did that in 2023. And just being financially solvent and thriving and having churning a nice profit would be incredible. I'd be so grateful.
Yeah. I know no matter how hard I try to kind of like even out the deal flow, it just ebbs and flows. It's just it's so interesting. One of my friends is Bob Knackle up in New York. He was with Massey Knackle, and then Cushman, and now JLL, and now he's on his own. BKREA. So yeah, he tracks all his stats, and it's been interesting to see like he'll do this many deals that year and then that many deals the next year.
Wow.
So yeah,
Yeah.
he does more investment sales and redevelopment and all those kinds of things.
Yeah, it is cyclical, and it's not. Yeah, it's very hard to expect an even keel cash flow. I don't think it happens. But I think just I do rentals as well to even out some of the
Yeah.
bad times. There's nothing wrong with taking on a rental. We're a huge rental city, huge, and we're a very transitory city. People coming in and people going out, and that means rentals are turning over. So I try to do those a lot in the summer when sales are slower.
And then do you have a lot of those rentals or some of those rentals that end up later on being buyers?
Sometimes, yep,
Uh-huh.
they get my newsletter, and hopefully, yes, it could be years down the line, a year or two or three, but yes,
Yeah.
yes, absolutely.
That's what I find doing tenant representation and helping businesses to find space that later on when they're ready to buy or all these other things that I've already had that relationship. So it's nice to see that. Yeah. Well, this has been really fun. I've loved learning all about New York. Did you want to talk about anything in particular that we didn't already talk about? Because I feel like we've touched on not podcast, on mindset and your background and what you do and those kinds of things, but would love to give you the floor.
Oh my. No, I'm good to go. I just think for anyone out there who's thinking about getting into real estate or even just getting into their own business and being self-employed. If you really love what you're doing and you feel passionate, do it. Don't give up. Find good mentors and find good resources. And it's certainly out there in this day and age with all the technology that we have. There's a lot of information, and I'm really all for being a small business owner in whatever industry that may be for you.
Awesome. Well, I'm so proud of you and continued success. And what a great start to the beginning of this year, and hoping for continued momentum. I have how to contact you. You have a great compass.com agent page there, which I'll have my show notes editor put there along with your LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook. Is there any other, do you prefer email, or any of those are good?
Any of those are good, or Instagram is fine. You can always message me on Instagram, and that would be awesome. And thank you so much for having me.
No, this has been so much fun. Oh, I'm going to be in New York twice coming up.
Oh,
so
really?
We'll have to get together for lunch or coffee or whatever. So yeah, I'll be in around May 1st and then again around June 1st.
Okay, well, send me an email, and I would love to meet you. That would be great.
Yeah, I love going to New York. It's like a burst of energy for me, so it's kind of fun. So.
Okay.
So, yeah. So I'll get to meet you then in real life. So yeah. So listeners, thanks so much for tuning into another episode of Performance Mindset. Let's keep continuing to strengthen that mindset and go beyond. This is your host, Amy Calandrino, signing off.